What's poppin', internet? Welcome to a bonus episode of the Synced Up Podcast, a show where we usually talk about news, games, and sandwich a little fun in between. But today we're just going to talk about games, our top 5 games specifically. And joining me this week is number 1 Nintendo fan, Michael Clare. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic.
And also special guest, you probably know him. You're definitely going to love him. Host of the 99 Questions podcast, Bob Buel. What is up, Bob? How you doing?
Hey, it's absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on. This is fantastic.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we're very excited about this. I've seen you, of course, on the MinMax show, and I believe you were on the Game Informer show. Were you on there as well?
I was.
Okay.
I was on there for. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I had a joke edited out of the Game Informer show, so
that's probably
too crass for the show.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
I feel good about that one.
I feel like that's honorable. So before we get into the show, a little bit of housekeeping for you. Of course, our normal podcasts go up Mondays, 7 a.m. Central Time Zone. Gang. And you can find those in your favorite podcasting feed by searching Synced Up Podcast and looking for the blue and white logo. And obviously, we're on YouTube at youtube.com/synceduppodcast. Now, this is just going to be a bonus episode. It's going to be like a normal podcast. We're just going to title it number 46, and we're just going to upload it, I believe, Thursday,
yeah.
somewhere in there, and that's when it'll go up. And then you can expect our regular episode as well on that Monday. But this one is just our top 5 games of all time. Back in March, we did this episode at the start of our podcast, and we had very bad mics, no camera. We were in a very airy room with a ton of echo.
Yeah, no clue what we were doing.
But now, obviously, we've upgraded. We got the nice set. We got Bob Buel, the special guest. Yeah, we got Tetris playing in the back here. We're fully upgraded, and we got a nice camera as well. So we're gonna redo this episode, and hopefully you guys like it
too. My list at least.
My list is exactly the same because I got consistency.
So variety in my life.
Yeah, to get it started, I'm gonna start off with my number 5, a little game you might know.
Okay.
I feel like most people know. Because what did it win at the Game Awards? I can't remember. But last year or the year before it came, well, I guess the year before now because it's 2021.
Yep.
Came out in 2019 is Disco Elysium. That is my number 5 game. I don't know if you've played it, Bob. But if you haven't.
I have not, actually.
If you haven't, I very much recommend you do so.
What is Disco Elysium?
So the quick rundown of Disco Elysium is it's a computer RPG, which if you don't know what that is, neither do I, honestly. But they're usually very aggressive, systems aggressive games for me, and I don't like them. I tend to shy away from those type of games. Yeah. But for some reason, Disco Elysium just pulled me in. I don't know what it was, but Disco Elysium.
The characters, the world. Yeah,
the writing, even the aesthetic, the art style, the music is quite good. Something about Disco Elysium just gets me going. Yeah. I don't know what it is. I sat down and I think I beat that game in 2 days, and it's roughly a 20-something hour game. And I almost restarted it. I'm looking forward to the
definitive edition. Right?
Yeah, the director's cut is what they're calling it.
It's coming to console, right?
Yes, it is, and it's also fully voiced now instead of partially voiced, is how it was before. So that's super exciting for me, and I recommend it to anybody out there if they haven't played it.
I'll probably wait till the director's cut to give it a shot.
Yeah.
Watching you play it, I've seen trailers at the Game Awards and everywhere they've shown it. It looks interesting. You know, it looks like it has more depth than it gives off.
Of course. It is a very deep game. A lot of dice rolls, but it still doesn't feel like there's a lot of dice rolls. I don't know how to explain it, because there is literally dice rolling on your screen, but it doesn't feel like you're just rolling dice and getting screwed over all the time. You still feel like you're doing good stuff, and I very much like that game. So that's my number 5. What about you, Mike?
Okay. So my list, before we get too much into it, is more I think just memories and good experiences I had with games than games I consider this is the pinnacle game. You know what I'm saying? So my number 5, weird, Overwatch. I've kind of lost favor with Blizzard as a company over the years, but I still enjoyed Overwatch when it came out in 2015 maybe, or 2016 it might have been, because that was right when I started going to college, and I met some guys on my floor. Yeah. And now where you and I have met.
Yeah, we met right around there.
Those roommates and those friends. So I have a lot of appreciation for that game. Played it a lot. I was never too good. I got 2,500, whatever that elo was. Yeah. But playing Lucio Ball. Yeah,
Lucio Ball.
I don't know if you remember that. I don't know if you know what that is, Bob.
Lucio I loved it.
Oh, I loved it too. It was,
Lucio was in my top 3 of mains in that game. So yeah,
same. I loved it so much. And so we played we were grandmaster level at Lucio Ball. Yeah. And
I remember that.
The TESPA, they do the collegiate tournaments. We did a Lucio Ball tournament, and there was some shenanigans where I couldn't make one of the games, and we had to get a sub in and stuff like that. And we ended up getting like 3rd or 4th or something.
Wow.
But we still got $20 prizes, and that's the most I've ever made at a video game
That's
tournament.
cool.
Hey.
So that was like a really fun experience, and I've had a lot of experiences like that with Overwatch. I love the characters. I love the world. The gameplay, I enjoyed a lot. Because I'm not a huge FPS guy.
Yeah, the shooting in that game is quite good.
But yeah, they give you so many different ways to kind of play the game.
Yeah.
If you don't want to play with a gun, play Reinhardt, you know? So I enjoyed that game a lot, even though it's not like a pinnacle.
Who did you play the most, Bob? I'd like to know.
Torbjorn.
Torbjorn? That's a good pick.
Man, like putting down the turret, and I
once they nerfed him into like getting rid of the turret, or like turret was his alter now, I was like, not interested. Sorry, I'm gonna move on from this. But like, that first couple of years where it was like all powerful, throwing out shields at everybody.
Yep.
Especially when you could put 6 or 5 Torbjorns on the same team before they nerfed.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
when the game first came out.
My big pick was always Roadhog, and so they nerfed him too.
Roadhog.
You always get the hook and then right click.
The hook and the shotgun.
As soon as you got hooked, you knew you were dead.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm dead.
I love that game a lot.
I got in late. I was Junkrat in the beginning. And then just because I like flying around with the little
placing the mines
and jumping, and then I also really liked Ana Amari when she came out, and I played a ton of Ana Amari. She was a nice character. Interesting way to do a support character in my opinion.
I'm kind of excited for Overwatch 2 just to see what they do with the franchise going forward.
Haven't heard a lot from that game in a minute.
I have not either, but I mean,
for some reason, I wouldn't be shocked if they did a Among Us thing and just kind of said like, you know what, we've thought about it. We're actually just going to make Overwatch 1 super beefed up at this point.
1.5.
Something tells me that's the route they're going to go, but who knows? Blizzard, they know better than I do.
I think there's a possibility they end up doing more of a story-driven, like Overwatch 2, or name it something else. Like,
well, they did say there would be a campaign, but they said it would like be available in one, or there was like some.
There was a lot of plans to do that for the first one, but I think it just took off in a different way.
Blizzard's kind of been ghost for a while.
Yeah, they have. I mean, there's been some Diablo news here and there, but that's really been
Diablo Immortal, the mobile game.
Even Diablo 4.
Yeah.
There was there was an update a couple weeks ago. So
you guys don't have phones?
What a classic game. That's it for my number 5. What about you, Bob?
I'm excited for Bob's list. Let's get
number
it going.
5. I have a very eclectic list here, and I have a ton of special nominations just outside of the top 5.
Okay.
But number 5, The Witness.
Oh, that's a fantastic pick. I couldn't get into The Witness.
Is that the puzzle one?
Yes, it is.
The super hard puzzle one?
I wouldn't say super hard. Well, unless you want 100% it. It's definitely not super hard. But the basic gist of it is, it's first-person puzzle solver on an island. So you are just first person on this random island with no other inhabitants, but just a strange world all around you. And you walk up to these little panels with different, start here, end here. How do you get that line to that point? Puzzle.
Yeah.
But the greatest part of it is, and for the inner puzzle solver in me, it's the greatest thing I ever could have thought of. They give you symbols, they give you clues, but nothing in the game tells you what they mean. So you'll see a board and it'll have a golden triangle, 2 golden triangles, a black dot, and a red dot. That's it. And only through trial and error and just logical conclusions can you figure out, oh, this is what golden triangles mean. Oh, I have to sandwich the line between the 2 dots, but if they're a golden triangle with 2 triangles, I have to touch 2 sides of the square. But if it's one, like you have to just figure it out naturally through the environment. It's mind-blowing. So the most satisfaction you get out of that game is not necessarily beating a puzzle, but it's learning the rules. It's your own mind going, oh, of course that's what it means. Because now I have 7 puzzles that I did, and I thought this was the rule. Maybe this could be it. Maybe this could be it. But once you get it on all 7, you go, this has to be it. So and now you know it going forward, and it's the most satisfying thing in the world.
A lot of those moments where like you'll do 3 puzzles not knowing how exactly you figured it out, but then it all clicks later down the line, and that's a huge satisfaction feeling. I know that.
Yeah. Wow.
Or sometimes it'll be like 4 in a row, and you'll get the first 2 kind of accidentally, and the third one you'll get wrong, and you go, well, now I have to rethink my whole headspace. Yeah. Now I don't know what this means. Let me look back to see what I did right. Look what I did wrong, and figure out the pattern here.
Yeah.
And once you get it, it's beyond satisfying. And it's Some are clue based like that. Some are environmental based. It depends where you are in the world or what's around you, which is like, again, gets into spoiler territory, but oh my God, so unbelievable.
Yeah. I tried The Witness. I was just too dumb. I don't know. I tried it when it first came out. Maybe I'll go back to it now that I'm a smarter lad, because it was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But I tried it. I tried to get into it so bad, but I was just dumb. I was like, I can't get these puzzles, but I can appreciate it for what it like is. And when I hear people talk about it, like, I'm always like, damn, that game sounds quite good. And I liked some of I did solve some puzzles. There were like some perspective puzzles where you had to like line up rocks in the environment and stuff, and I really like that.
The classic example, and it's, slight spoiler for The Witness here, if for the first maybe hour of the game, but like the classic puzzle is like, there's one line that you start at the bottom, and there's 7 branching paths leading up, and there's nothing that indicates that one is different from the other, and you're like, well, all right, I could just try. Like, that's what everyone goes. You go, all right, let me try the first one. No. Try the second one. No. And you don't quite know what you're doing. But until you like exit out of the puzzle itself, literally take a couple steps back, because it's all in FPS, you'll see there's an apple tree growing behind that puzzle board with 7 branches going off of the tree. And whichever one the apple is on, that's the correct answer. Okay. So it literally forces you to like open your mind, man. It's all around you. It's all here. It's like and again, there are moments in that game that I truly don't want to spoil, because if anyone wants to play it, it's like mind-blowing. There was a moment in that game that I had to put the controller down, walk around my living room going, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. Because I was so mind blown by a puzzle. Absolutely top 10 of all time. Number 5, in fact, of all time.
I want to get into that. That sounds like something I
know. I might re-download it. It's
you
sitting
are
there.
A lot smarter.
It's sitting there.
4 whole years.
4 years ago, I was 18. I was dumb. I was fresh out of...
Arguably still might be. But...
Yeah, I guess that's arguable. That I could still be quite dumb. Wow, yeah, that is a good pick. My number 4 is... I'm trying to think. Make sure. Okay, yeah. Dark Souls 3 is my number 4.
Okay.
Oh, that's a great one.
I love the Dark Souls series, all of the FromSoft games. Now that the Demon Souls remake has came out, I've finally... I guess... Technically, I haven't beat them all because I didn't play the original, but I count it. I mean, it's still Demon Souls at its core, so I've now beat all the FromSoft games. I mean, I love them all. I love them all so much. I've platinumed Demon Souls. I came really close to Sekiro, but I did everything except I just couldn't beat that final boss, man. I got so close, and I just got thrashed. But in Dark Souls 3, I've actually got every single Steam achievement in that game. It took me 90-ish hours, and I did it with 2 of my friends. And that was such a fun experience. Yeah. I played that game way later after it came out, because originally I was a kid when Dark Souls 2 came out. And I played it, and I just loved it so much, but I would just get trounced. Like, I would have no idea where to go. I would have no idea what to do. I didn't know.
See, I'm 22, and I still have that problem.
Yeah.
It doesn't change.
It's a fair point. I didn't know what was going on, but I just loved the world and all this stuff. I was just fascinated by it. And so later on in life, when Trey... and Ethan asked me, hey, do you want to play through Dark Souls 3 with us? And I was like, yeah, you know what? That was one I didn't play. And I liked 2, even though I only got like a quarter way through the game. I did it, and we ended up beating the game 4 times pretty much to get all the achievements. And then I went back and played 2 and played 1 and went and did all that stuff. But that was just such a fun experience with them specifically of going through and discovering stuff. And I mean, I guess it wasn't so fun grinding for like 8 hours for one specific item for one achievement, because that was rough. Because, in Dark Souls 3, there are multiplayer-related achievements, but the multiplayer items you need to get those, you can get in single player if you grind for them. But it's way easier in multiplayer. But because we played it so late, no one's playing. Nobody was playing the game, and if you wanted to go into multiplayer, it was just a bunch of hackers. So we had to do the grindy way to get the thing, and it was rough, man. Just running up... What's that castle? It starts with an A. I can't remember the name of it. But there's all those, like, the Black Knight guys up there. And I would just run the same path. I'd hit the bonfire, run up the stairs, kill the 2 coming down the stairs, run up, kill the dude on the balcony, run down, and then just do that over and over again for, like, 8 hours until I got enough of these little things to trade in for a damn spell. God, it was so rough. But other than that, it was just so fun having people come in and help you with bosses. And don't get me wrong, there was a lot of rage moments of, I'm never playing this game again. And then, waking up the next day being like, you know what, I'll try the boss one more time. And then beating it first try, the classic Dark Souls thing. And I just loved it. Oh, it was so fun. So yeah, my number My number 4, definitely Dark Souls 3. I know you don't have any experience with.
Yeah. How many tattoos are we away from getting?
At Dark Souls? We're just one. Dark Souls is the next
Is the next
tattoo.
one? Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be right here. I'm gonna get the dark sign. That's on the docket.
Okay.
Because I have to.
That.
I have to. Have you played Dark Souls, Bob?
I'm literally looking at an Onion Knight statue that I have hanging up there from Dark Souls 1.
Of course.
Yes, I've played through all of 1, 2, and 3 and all the DLCs. Bloodborne. Sekiro was not quite my jam. I'm just not good at the parry.
That's
a
fair.
whole separate thing. But
it is a different game.
Yeah, Dark Souls 3 I think is my favorite of the Dark Souls series. Yeah. So I have huge respect for this pick. There are very few games that make you feel like a just badass knight taking down a gargantuan, awful looking demon thing than the Dark Souls games. And yeah,
I always ran the, I can't remember the name of it. It was like a hammer with lightning abilities, and I would do like a faith strength build, and you would just spam L2 and it would like slam lightning down from the sky. I don't remember what the weapon was called, but I would just demolish the bosses like when I was going through like New Game plus. And so I was always the one that my friends, you know, they'd be stuck. He's like, oh, we got to beat the Nameless King one more time. And I would come in and kill him in like 2 hits real fast. It was just so cool. So fun doing that stuff. A lot of people, how do you feel about Dark Souls 2? I know that's a touchy subject for Dark Souls fans. Dark Souls 2.
I like it a lot.
So do I.
I think it probably has the lowest lows of the series, but I think some of its highs are like as good as that series ever got.
Yeah.
Like
to me, this might be a hot take. I think Majula is the best hub world in the Dark Souls series. I 100%. Love Majula. And a lot of people don't agree with me.
I mean, there's a reason in that game they made you level up there. Like in Dark Souls 1, you could level up any bonfire you ever encounter.
Yeah.
In 2, they made you go back to Majula, so it felt like home.
Yeah,
like as soon as you got there and you could see the vast ocean and the Emerald Herald standing there and all your shopkeepers that you've rescued, like it felt great. It was a fantastic.
And I still get chills every time you walk out that cave and the sun is setting on the horizon there, and you're like, oh, it just looks so great. I love it. And then just as that, I'm a sucker for hub worlds that evolve over time. That you can affect. So getting new shopkeepers there, like they have that in every Dark Souls game, but it feels especially special in 2 because like, you know, you build the ladder down into the well and then you clear up the house and go into the basement. Like, oh, I just love it so much. But Dark Souls 3 just gets that slight edge over 2 for me. But don't get me wrong, 2 is still high up there on my favorite list, just not quite as high as 3. So what's your number 4, Mike?
Matching the intensity and the, you know, I feel like you have to be a real gamer to play Dark Souls. You also have to be a real gamer to play my number 4, Mario Odyssey. Nearly as intense.
Just as intense, just as difficult.
I don't know. This game was kind of like my foray back into games for a little while.
Like when
I played Overwatch, that was like all I played. I didn't really play console games. I got like whatever Pokemon game was out for my DS, and that was like really it.
Yeah.
And because I had stopped playing after, because I had my 360. And then there was a period of time where I just didn't play games. Yeah. So you got me a Switch for my birthday, and like
I did do that
in like 2018, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because it would have been a year. When's your birthday's in
June 1st?
No, I believe it was 2017.
Maybe it could have been
because I remember you being stoked about the Switch, but just not able to get it yet.
Yeah, because I was a broke college student.
Yeah,
and so you get that for me. I play Mario Odyssey, and it relit a fire in me for like video games because I loved what they did with that game.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's, you know, a top 10 game score wise or anything like that. But it was so fun. It kind of brought this idea of like I can just 100% a game if I enjoy it. That wasn't a concept that I like understood was that I could 100% a game and just keep playing it.
Yeah.
And so I did that. It was the first game I like actually 100%ed all the way through. All the moons were enjoyable. There were so many.
Yeah.
I just love that game so much.
They're
was
everywhere.
So fun.
It had the Breath of the Wild thing, you know, where you there's always something somewhere. Like you see a rock on top of a mountain, and you know if you climb up there, there's gonna be something. And Mario Odyssey had that same type of thing. You're like, hey, there's kind of a hill here. I wonder if I ground pound, and then up comes a moon, and you're like, oh, that's great.
Even if like completely unreachable areas to like normal people, they still put coins up there.
Yeah, coins up at
like
the top.
Speedrunners or people who could do that stuff.
Because you would go into that cave area, I think is where it was, and you'd be like, "There's no way I could get up there." But if you got frame perfect jumps, you'd get up to the top, and there'd be a stack of coins up there waiting for you, which was just so cool.
And then I don't know where people really stand on like the hierarchy of the Mario 3D platformer games, but it's just so good to me.
It is.
It's hard for me to find fault with that game.
I think the best word for me to describe it is joyous. Like there's just so much like joy in that game, especially in like the New Donk City section.
Yep.
Like there's just so much to. I think like there's no other game really where I think my cheeks were hurting for smiling so much. You know.
Yeah. There's just a lot of wholesome moments in that game, and I'm just like, this is really cool. You know, it didn't matter what kingdom you are. When you start off and you go to Cascade and you're like, I could be a dinosaur. Yeah. You're like, okay, this game's taking me in. Yeah. It's fun. So
yeah, I agree.
I enjoyed that game a lot. Not too much to say about Mario Odyssey. It was just really fun.
It is a very fun
experience, and it got me back into playing video games to where I am now with a Xbox Series X in my room. You know, like it's just, it kind of changed me. So I appreciate it a lot.
I assume you've also played Mario Odyssey.
I'd be shocked if you hadn't, Bob. Have you played it?
I actually haven't. This is a dark confession I have here. I love everything I've seen about it. I absolutely do. I got a Switch late, and it was basically like, do you want Breath of the Wild or do you want Mario? And I went with Breath of the Wild.
That's a fair point.
It's one of those things like, I absolutely will be getting this one of these days because I've heard the exact same thing from everyone who played it. It's just puts a smile on your face kind of game.
Yeah.
But just haven't.
And I will say,
but I love the enthusiasm.
That spot there kind of goes the same for Breath of the Wild. Because those were the first 2 games I played on the Switch, and I almost 100%ed Breath of the Wild. I didn't do the Koroks, but I did all the quests, all the shrines, stuff like that. And they both hold that kind of same spot for me, and like getting me reinvigorated in games. So.
Yeah, getting back into the gist of it, which is good now because we run a gaming podcast. So
that's true.
I'm glad you were back in the mix.
Did you realize when you bought me that Switch 4 or 3 years ago that it would lead to this
moment? I don't think I did.
Yeah.
I don't think I did.
That.
No,
because I was master plan coming together.
It's worked out.
It has worked out quite well. All right, Bob, number 4. What do you got?
Number 4. This is another one kind of similar to The Witness, where it is like a secret puzzle game, but shrouded in everything else. Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, okay. All right.
Now, originally for PS2, been remastered for just about every other Sony console since.
Yep.
So if you're going to play it, play the newest one on PS4. But this is a game that's just so... like perfect is the only word I can use to describe it. It hits every box for me. It's so cinematic.
Yeah, like it's very cinematic.
The gorgeous world that you're in, this empty barren land. For anyone who doesn't know what this game is, it's basically you are a guy who doesn't even have a name technically. I think your name's in the instruction manual and not given anywhere in the game.
Yeah.
With a sword, a bow and arrow, and a horse, and a dead body.
Yeah.
And you show up into town, dead body's a girl, and you say, how can I bring her back to life? Some omniscient voice says, if you kill 16 Colossus, 16 giants in this world, I'll bring her back to life. Go. And that's your goal. And there's no other enemies. There's no levels in between. It's just you getting to a boss, 16 bosses, and every boss is a puzzle. It's a 3D platforming adventure puzzle. So you have to get to an enemy, and you have to figure out that first you have to slam a sword down, then you have to stab him in the hand, and then he releases his sword, and then when his hand is hurting you have to jump into his hand, and then he'll scratch onto his back, and then you have to hit him on his shoulder, and then he'll scratch on the other side of his back, and you have to jump on his back and jump on his head. Like every boss feels so monumental and huge. And I'm going to use all these flowery words for it, but it's grandiose. It's epic in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Like there's so many weird secrets in that game, which really grabbed me when I was.
You have like the lizards, and then in the remaster, I watched was that a Jacob Geller video?
That was a Jacob Geller video. I know the exact one. The coins.
Yeah, the one where you find the coins, and it like opened up a thing and like a secret that everyone that thought was a secret back in the day and couldn't solve, and then they added it in the remaster. Oh, so good.
Yeah. And my favorite is there is a slight spoiler, I suppose. This is basically me spoiling my top 5 games of all time. But at the very end of the game, you find out there's a little like garden thing on top of the castle that you've been in the whole time, at the very center of this world. There is a way that you can like kind of exploit the game's stamina system to do perfect like cross jumps because they take less stamina and cover more ground. You can get to that garden through like, you have to kill enough lizards and get your stamina bar big enough.
Yeah.
But you can get to that end game garden like anytime you want during the game, basically. And getting there during the PS2 version of that game felt like an accomplishment because it was like, this is something that should be out of bounds.
Yeah.
And to get there and like see the world from up there is absolutely nuts. And but that's beside the point. The game is phenomenal. I think it tops a lot of people's lists for that reason. And yeah, I absolutely love it. I've played and adore every single remake of it. It's great.
I think that's a thing that we can all agree on. It should be looked at more in game development, is that idea of, like you say, with a garden up top and the secret, or how you were talking about in Mario Odyssey with the things at the top. To like, I think as a game developer, if you could just put more detail in these areas that like not everyone is going to see, but the person who does see it, I think that there's like a big impact there for those people.
It'll change this game completely for them.
And I think that is very important. Now, Shadow of the Colossus, in my experience, I made it through 4 of the bosses. And I was in the same league as, if you know him, what now his name's Jared Petty, where I just didn't want to kill him. Like, I didn't want to do it, and so I ended up stopping. But I did make it through 4 bosses, and I couldn't get over the fact of like, man, I don't want to just kill these Colossus for what I feel like is no reason. But I have watched plenty of video essays, specifically the Jacob Geller one we was talking about a second ago, and I think that's really where my appreciation for Shadow of the Colossus comes from, is that Jacob Geller video, because it's just a beautiful video, and Jacob Geller is a brilliant guy, right? But I do appreciate the love that everyone has for Shadow of the Colossus, the legacy, really, because PS2, like, you wouldn't think a game that big could be on PS2 yet. There it is, sitting on the PS2, and you can play it, and it kind of transcends what you thought was capable back in the day.
Yeah, I remember watching Trey play it in our dorms, and it was very beautiful. That was one of the games I was like, oh, I'd like to play this if I get a chance. I never got around to playing it, but I saw him play it almost to completion, and watching those boss fights was really cool. How they change and evolve throughout the fight. Yeah, I agree. It's extremely cool.
You gotta love the scale of everything. It's why,
oh my gosh,
in God of War 3, I think that those boss fights at the very beginning are like some of the best boss fights ever, because it's just, everything's so big and giant and crazy.
On the Titans and
when you're fighting Poseidon on the back of Gaia and stuff. Oh, it's just so cool. That is a fantastic 4th pick. And for my 3rd pick, I have a game here. Now, this is where people might get a little iffy with me because of recency bias, but I mean, it's been 2 years.
It has.
I guess 3 now, almost. God of War, for the PlayStation 4.
Wow.
That game, I don't know. It did so much for me personally. I think I can say this here now in this, for talking about this game. Emotional impact is like a big thing for me when it comes to games.
Yeah.
If you can make me cry and cry a lot, that's gonna get you up my list, right? I'm gonna push your game further up my favorites list, because I enjoy a good cry. Obviously, most people know that about me, and I get very emotional and teary-eyed when it comes to sad moments in games. And for some reason, even though I didn't have a ton of love for God of War 1, 2, and 3, all the quote-unquote fan servicey things that I wouldn't call them fan servicey, but that's basically what they are, that they did in God of War for those old games, just gave me so much nostalgia, even though I didn't have much for those games. Yeah. And I just felt like, every single moment I was like, man, that's just so cool. And it's a callback to a last game. And I think that game, 1, is a testament to the genius of Cory Barlog, first and foremost. And 2 is a testament that really you should never give up on a franchise, frankly, because, with Chains of Olympus and those God of War games, it was kind of on the fall off, if we're going to be completely honest. There was one other one that was on like the PS Vita. The franchise was thought dead, and nothing really. That E3 moment when they announced it and Cory Barlog's playing on stage, and you see the boy playing with the thing, and you're like, what's going on? And then out of the shadows comes Kratos. That moment was just so crazy. It was like, oh man. And you just jumped out of your seat like, I can't believe you're doing this. And it was so fun and just so exciting to see that, and then to play the game and it live up to that. And that was one of the few games in my life where I 100%ed it, got the platinum trophy, and then I was sitting there and I thought to myself, do I do it again? Do I start this over and do it again? Because I just loved it. Like, I wasn't going for the platinum because I was close to it or because I like platinum trophies, but because I finished a story and I finished what I was doing, and I thought to myself, I don't want to be done yet. I don't want this story to be done yet. I don't want to quit playing this game. And so I hunted for the Ravens, and I killed the rest of the Valkyries and did all of that stuff. And I think that story in that game is just superb. I love the story in that game. I love the combat. There are some criticisms of that game that I can get behind. There's like a lot of, especially in like the whatever the world is called, where it's like Helheim, I think, where you climb the mountain. That gets a little tedious. And then when you do this stuff in the maze that's in the fog and stuff, that also can get a bit tedious. But aside from that, I just loved all the set pieces and the story and just the characters, and the ending really had me, curled up in the fetal position of like, oh, life. And I was really, really crying on that one. But I cannot wait for God of War Ragnarok. I think it's going to be superb.
I'm really excited.
And I really like that game. You haven't played that game, have you?
That's another one I watched Trey play start to finish.
Yeah.
Because that was, I didn't have that much time with school and work. So I'd come home. It'd be too late. I didn't want to play a game, but he was on the couch playing it. So I'd watch him play it, or he's in his room or whatever. So I know the story. I watched it. I'm really excited for Ragnarok.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play that one.
Oh yeah, we got the PS5 in the household now, so we can play that. That's gonna be nice. Did you play God of
yeah.
War? Is this another lapse in your repertoire, Bob Buel?
Well, listen, if you're gonna call me out for every one of these, it might have been another lapse.
Oh,
no, not to say I haven't seen it be played quite a bit.
Of course.
I love what you said though. Like it really is true. Like going from God of War 1, 2, and 3 to all the little spin-offs and sequels from there. Yeah, it was becoming like a cheesy action game.
100%.
And this one really did take the reins and was like, no, this is a tragic character with a dark and deep backstory that deserves to be focused on a little bit more.
He's not just
a change of mythology. Yeah, exactly. And a change of mythology did them perfectly. It's all they needed to be able to be like, okay,
100%.
here it is from a new lens, and go. They absolutely crushed it.
Took the Greek god and put him in the Norse area, and then I think change of mythology really was one of the things that they needed to be able to change the complete tone of that game.
Yeah.
And to say, hey, our characters have depth. Hey, we don't have to be an action RPG. We can be a third-person action adventure game and still accomplish so many things. And God of War 2018 it almost was my favorite game. Didn't quite make it, but it was close. When I got to the end and I 100%ed it, I thought long and hard, like, do I put this at number 1? Didn't quite make it, but just know I almost put it there. I almost did.
It got the bronze, though.
It did. It did get the bronze. Number 3 for you, Mike. What do you got for me?
So I couldn't put Pokemon the franchise on the list alone. So because that was something we discussed 40 months ago. We were like, can I just put Pokemon in there? He's like, no, pick one.
Yeah.
And so I just went with what my favorite one was. Pokemon Soul Silver,
of course,
which I think was a lot of people's favorite. I think maybe because I think that was the first game where we got Pokemon following you around, and that was like the hugest request at the time for Pokemon games was like, let my Pokemon follow me, right?
Then they took it right back away.
Yep, didn't last long. Pokemon was just such a big part of my childhood. It's where I started. 2 years old, my uncle hands me a Game Boy with no game, and I had to go find something. Found Pokemon Blue, and loved it from the start.
Yeah.
And I've played every game since then, like almost every spin-off too. It's just such a beloved franchise for me. I mean, lately it's kind of fallen off, and like, how much I'm invested into it.
Yeah.
Because I used to be into everything.
The
100%. Movies, the cards, all of it. So
tournaments.
Yep. Going to the tournaments, everything. It's just such a big part of my life and my childhood that it would just be a shame for me to not put on this list.
Yeah.
And I do love Soul Silver a lot. It's probably my favorite game. I think Gen 2, being able to go to both Johto and Kanto and explore both of those worlds is amazing.
That's cool.
It allows you to use the Pokemon up to Gen 4 at the time, I think. It was just it was a big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
And I think it's maybe in that time period where I have a lot of memories just in life in general. So it's just very pertinent in my memory. I love it a lot.
I don't think Soul Silver was one that I played. I don't think I ever played that one. But obviously you can't deny the importance of Pokemon. So I've dabbled, I've played a lot of them.
I think everybody's touched it at least once.
Yeah. I've played quite a few of them. And despite my qualms with, I think, how they're handling the newer games and how much I dislike that, I do have some fondness for some of those old Pokemons. Leaf Green specifically, obviously. I think it's in my 23rd, 24th spot, something like that.
I like how you're able to nail it down that precisely.
I put a lot of thought into it.
I'll one up you there. I think Pokemon Silver was in my 11th spot
11
yeah.
on
spot.
this list here.
There you go.
But from a purely technical standpoint, Soul Silver is like it's everything that was great about Silver, but just
just kind
notched
of
up one for the 100%. And I cannot tell you how mind blowing it was playing through Silver and beating all 8 and getting through the Elite Four, and then someone just goes, "Oh, here." You want to just go back to this other game? Yeah, eight more badges, man. Go nuts!
And it's crazy how they haven't done that in any other game. Because that's one of the that was one of the best feelings, was being able to like, oh, the game's not over.
Yeah, you thought you beat 100%. You beat 50%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like what?
It was crazy. And then being able to fight Red if you knew how to get there.
Oh, at the cave, like at the back of the deep dark cave.
It's like the quintessential battle of every young trainer's careers.
Have you seen the video where it's like beating Red with only level 1 Pokemon?
I've seen so many videos like that.
That's a good video.
I don't know, man. I love that game so much. There's just so many good and cool features they did, and both Silver and Soul Silver.
Plus, up to Gen 4, I think. Like you
had some.
You still have rock solid. Like that's before. A bunch of people would probably disagree with me, but I think as the generations go on, you start to get like, okay. Like,
I think it's all because of nostalgia. That's a whole other conversation about like why people don't like newer gen stuff.
And it just feels like there's, I don't know.
But Gen 4 had a lot of, I think, cool Pokemon. They gave a lot of evolutions to old Pokemon that everybody loved, like Magmar, Electabuzz. They all got evolutions. And so it was just I think that was a really good time for Pokemon. Maybe it's just because that's when I remember it the most. Yeah. And I played it the most, but I think it was a great time period to be a Pokemon fan.
Can't beat that nostalgia factor. No, it's impossible to do.
That's why that's how my list is built, is on nostalgia. Come on,
nostalgia is too much of an important feeling. I think in the gaming,
it's a crazy strong emotion.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Like, I think it's something I feel every time we watch a Game Awards or an E3. I'm just like
anything that's a look back on a year or anything you've done.
Nostalgia, I think, is one of the reasons I love this thing that we all love so much. Right? Is just. Every time, just being able to get super crazy excited about dumb niche things from 20 years ago with everyone just as excited as you are. The classic video of, I mean, God, it's a different world now because of COVID, but when they announced Smash and you have that classic video of like the 55 dudes all watching it on the projector, and then the eyeball comes on the Inkling's eye and everyone's like, oh my God. Like, you just don't get feelings like that in other areas. I feel like I mean, I'm sure you do. There's people who can get that excited about movies and stuff, or golf or whatever, I guess.
But it's just it's what we're most invested in.
Yeah. And so for gaming, it's just like, and so that nostalgia factor, I think, is quite important when. And
I think everyone has those kind of moments that are just so special and so unique to video games, where it's like, I can tell you stories about staying up till 4 a.m. playing Smash Brothers, or like the most epic game of Halo ever with like me and my buddies, or like everyone has those kind of stories, and it could be last week or it could be 20 years ago, and you could tell it with the same amount of passion every time.
It can be any game too, like. I think I might be the only one in our friend group who's excited for Psychonauts 2, just because I have nostalgia for Psychonauts. And so it's you can have that with any game, any experience. Or whoever you were playing it with. I think
there's always someone out there to share that emotion with. But I do agree, it is quite unique. I feel like, to gaming to have. I mean, just look at us right now, just talking about games right now. This is what exactly we're talking about. Going back in our top 5 favorite games of all time, thinking back to us playing them and the memories we have. It's just such a beautiful thing. Yep, you love to see it. Number 3, Bob, what do you got for us?
All right, number 3. You're gonna think I'm very old here, but I'm only moderately old. And hear me out here. 3.
Okay.
Miss Pac-Man.
Miss Pac-Man. Okay.
I can get behind that. I think my dad has a Miss Pac-Man arcade cabinet.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah,
here.
so I can get behind this pick.
So for multiple reasons here. So one, it's hugely nostalgia based. Obviously. Of course. Same thing.
100%.
Like, because I had it on Genesis growing up, and it was just constant. Like, that was the simplest game to, I have 4 minutes or I have 2 hours. Miss Pac-Man can do either one. And plus on Genesis, they put in a bunch of like bonus levels and wacky levels and like levels without walls. So you just had to like collect dots in free air, which was so bizarre.
Was Miss Pac-Man the one? I don't know if on Genesis, isn't it a Pac-Man game where there's a spot you can get where the ghost will never get you? Where you can like get in a corner somewhere? Is that
there are
arcades or?
there are different exploits if you want to go like the super hardcore route with it. I think in just about every game. But yeah, I'm not, I'm not to that level of fandom with it to tell you for sure, but almost definitely yes. But the biggest thing for me was the movie theater that I had near me growing up had a Miss Pac-Man machine in the lobby. So every movie from when I was probably 4 until like 24 was, let's get there 5 minutes early.
Play some
Pac-Man. Of course, we're going to hit up the dollar store down the street. I'm going to jam my pockets filled with candy and Snapple, sneak it into the theater, go to the lobby. No one's touching the Miss Pac-Man. Everyone's touching like, the shooter game or whatever the new one. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to the Miss Pac-Man machine. It was set to the highest speed possible on like the dip switch or whatever. So that's what I trained on though. So I'm just like like crushing it every single time. And I did that before literally every movie I watched at that theater.
Yeah.
So like just the idea of playing that game is instant like nostalgia bomb for my brain. But just from a pure technical level, like why is it number 3 of all time? For the scale they're going for the game that they want to make, it's obviously not Skyrim. It's obviously not anything that they, it's not supposed to be though. All it's supposed to be is these small levels, slowly sped up, AI ghosts going after you. But for that, it's perfect. Yeah. There are no flaws in it. Like, I agree. Fruit are dancing around, 4 power-ups, 4 enemies. That's the game. And once you get it, like, it's absolutely perfect.
It's part of that old era of games where, you go way back and they're all designed that way, right? Of just the simplest concepts yet executed so perfectly.
For me, it's Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris, another perfect game.
Yeah, where it's so simple. It's like 5 shapes, maybe.
But it's timeless. It's timeless. Everyone you can hand someone a controller and someone who doesn't play games can play Tetris. You can hand someone a controller and someone who doesn't play games can play Mrs. Pac-Man. It's the same thing. It's very simple, but and easy to understand, yet it feels like there's so much depth there. Yeah. Where you're like, oh, there's like, you could go so far and do all these crazy things and learn all these tactics and what to do if you want to. But also, if you just want to kick back for, like you said, 5 minutes, play a little bit of Miss Pac-Man, you can do that, which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is cool. For me,
or for me, going to a bar around the corner from where I worked a couple of years ago and challenge people to a game of Miss Pac-Man for a beer. Well, I've got a couple free shots out of it myself. So again, some newer nostalgia, but nostalgia nonetheless.
Yeah, of course. You gotta love those old arcades, man. My dad got a few years back, got really into like arcades and stuff, and he spent like I want to say like $25,000 or $30,000. He got a loan, and we drove down to Texas because we're in Oklahoma, by the way. So we drove down to Texas like 6 or 7 hours and loaded up all these. It was like a 40-hour trip altogether. I crashed at the end of it and loaded up all these like arcade machines and brought them back and just going through and playing like Centipede, Dig Dug, 1942. Just all those classic arcade games was just so fun. Like just going in like, oh, what is this? The Simpsons? And playing the Simpsons or TMNT.
Arkanoid, Robotron. Yes. Like I could go for days on those. Those are my favorite things.
And it's just, and it's cool as people who are so into gaming, no offense, Bob Buel, but obviously we're like way young, so we weren't alive back then when all of those things came out.
Yeah, of course.
We can still play them and just appreciate like, gaming. You look at The Last of Us 2 and then you look at Galaga and you're like look at the difference, like how far gaming has come. And that's a cool thing to do, to go back and play Dig Dug and you're like, man, this used to be like the best of the best.
Yeah. Well, and I love it and appreciate it because it gives you a connection to people who wouldn't necessarily consider themselves gamers. My mom can kick my butt at Mortal Kombat 2. And she'll always play Galaga when we go to like Dave and Buster's or something like that.
But she's like she'll call the Xbox the Nintendo type of thing.
She's smarter than that. Okay. Give her some respect.
My mom does that too, where it's like, like you have the Xbox and stuff, and it's always, or like especially my grandma, like, oh, you got that new Nintendo, and I'm like, yeah, but new Nintendo.
It gives us something to connect with, and I enjoy playing Mortal Kombat with my mom. Like it's just. Because that's what her thing was when she was young. She'd go to the arcade, play Mortal Kombat. And it's just like, that's something that's so important in my life. Yeah. That the fact that she even has a little bit of it. Yeah. I love that there's that connection there.
That is a setting I miss. COVID has made me miss a lot of things. the movie theater
The
specifically.
biggest one. Oh,
But going to an arcade would be quite nice. I'm not gonna lie, it would be nice. Too bad we can't, but I would love to go to an arcade. That was one of the fun things about PAX. You know, they always have that arcade room, and I always like going up there. And you can guarantee if there's a Guitar Hero 3 in an arcade room, I'm gonna be playing it, of course. But I
would go to a ton of different conventions, and I brought a little Raspberry Pi with Windjammers, an old arcade game on it, and set it up in like the hotel room of a PAX or a Comic-Con or an Anime Con or whatever it is, and like 8-9 of us jammed in that hotel room, just like, all right, I'm next, playing Windjammers all night. It's unbelievable.
Awesome.
It's the best feeling.
Yeah, of course. On to number 2. My number 2 pick. Now this is where we finally turn the clock back a little ways, because all mine in here are pretty recent. But you turn the clock back to 2002, 2003, maybe a little later. It's probably later than that. Legend of Zelda Wind Waker is my number 2 pick. There's someone at IGN, I can't remember their name because I don't listen to the Nintendo voice chat anymore. I got too many podcasts I listen to, but his favorite game is Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. And I will spoil a little bit for my number 1 pick.
How dare you?
Legend of Zelda Wind Waker was my number 1 until this last year. So, a little spoiler for what's coming up. But Wind Waker, to me, is just such a great game. Now, hey, 7 out of 10, too much water, I'll accept it, okay? I understand that there's too much water in that game. I get it. Now, in the remaster, they did shrink the size of the map, which is nice, and they added some new stuff. I really hope they bring it to Switch, by the way. Please do that. But also, I just have so much joy, and that's one of those things. Like you were saying, your memories around the game really shape your list. This one is that way for me. I just have so many memories going over to my cousin Matt's house, and he had a GameCube with this game, and just playing it, and being dumb kids, so we don't understand what we're doing, and getting to like Dragon Roost Island, and then getting stuck, and because we're dumb and we couldn't figure out how to get in further, and this was before the era of just being able to pull a smartphone out and be like, hey, look this thing up. We would just start over, right, and just get back to Dragon Roost Island and not know what to do again. And it was the same thing. And as the years went by, it took me ultimately like 10 years to finally beat Wind Waker. But I just played, like, I would get further and further and then start over and further. And because that was just that era, all your money was birthdays and Christmas. And so you got like 1 or 2 games a year, and you'd be super excited. But Matt always had Wind Waker, and I could always go to Matt's and play Wind Waker. And there's just so much joy from that game. And I've beat that game, I don't even know how many times, on the hero mode, on the regular mode. I've 100%ed it so many times. I just love it. The cel-shaded nature of it is great. I think the story is good. It's not. I mean, it's nothing to like really be like, oh my god, the story's amazing, because I mean, it's Legend of Zelda. Let's be honest. The Nintendo stories are never what you go to play those games for. But ultimately, I liked it. And it just, there's so much stuff in those games, like getting the camera and being able to take pictures of stuff and then take it back to this dude who'll make little statues of it for you, reminiscent of like Smash Bros. Trophies. That was cool. Just all the little secret side mission type things you could do, where you would talk to someone and they would say like some off the wall thing, and you'd be like, I wonder if I could, and then you would go do something and then come back, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, you did the thing, and they would give you like a piece. Nothing is better than, I don't know if you've seen this game or played this game, but there's a mission in there where you go into a windmill and you have to play like Battleship, and there's a dude in there, and he'll tell you if you like hit, like he makes like audio noises, and like his stupid goofy noises where he's like, and like every time you hit or you don't hit, like when you miss, like,
he makes like a kerplunk or something.
I think he says sploosh. He's like sploosh. He does it every time, and it's so goofy, and yet I love it because that entire game just knows exactly what it wants to be. And it was cool, every single aspect, the Tower of God, and then going down to the Hyrule Castle, and then fighting all those enemies, and then just feeling more badass when you got the Master Sword. And it's the classic Zelda formula, but I feel like it switched it up a little bit with the sailing. It's cool being able to sail anywhere, right? It was kind of the first Zelda game. Like, don't get me wrong, Ocarina of Time and those games are all open, but for me, Wind Waker just felt even more open. Like, I could go anywhere, and then getting the fast travel. There's an argument to be made that you should get it way earlier because of how big, in quotes, that game is, and how much you're just sailing and all the time. But I just get so much joy from that game, and I could whistle all the tunes, and if someone says, sings the first couple of notes of just any song, I'll sing the whole rest of it. Like, I love that game so much. And another thing is my brother shares that love with that game, or for that game with me. And that's another cool thing of him also having that, when Outset Island the song comes on, and me and him just being able to like sing at the top of our lungs that damn song. It's just so fun and good. And Wind Waker is just one of those games where if someone wants to get into the Zelda games, I'm always like, hey, this one is good. But I understand too much water. I will accept that criticism. I will it sucks. That's like, one of the most iconic IGN things of 7 out of 10 too much water, but God, that game's so good. I just love every aspect of it completely.
Really good.
It is quite good. And I've played it on GameCube, Wii U. I've played it on all of them. And it has to be coming to Switch, right? Like, please.
It would be a print money. So like, yeah, it has to.
Like, please bring it to Switch.
I assume. I don't know anything Nintendo does anymore. They make no sense to me.
Yeah, that's true.
So
lately they've been kind of off the wall with their announcements and whatnot. But Wind Waker, what a beautiful game. Number 2 for me.
It's gorgeous. And just real quick on it, I do remember because at the time there was a lot of controversy about like the art style of it.
Of course.
Like cell shaded. Oh my god! Especially because they showed off a tech demo that was like super realistic and gritty looking, and they were like, realistic for the time, game. Obviously. But yeah, it was like, oh, this is the kid Zelda. This is Zelda. This is cell shaded Zelda, and it was like, there's a reason they do it. Once you play through the game, and I'm sure you know this, like. The whole game is all about like the innocence of this kid, and then like once you see the enemies, there are some enemies that are like really like Dark Souls level creepy looking.
They are,
and they do such a great job of like clashing of those two themes, and that's what the whole thing is about. That's why the water washed over the previous kingdom and all that kind of stuff. Like the narrative they're going for matches up with the art style, and it's a beautiful game.
And
it's absolutely gorgeous.
I love the what's his name, King of Lions.
King of Red Lions.
King of Red Lions. That's what it is. I love him. I love that boat. I love the mission where you got to sneak through the town to get the sail, to get the upgraded sail. There's the one where you got to like creep because you think this lady's like stealing stuff, and you have to like help the shopkeeper, and you got to sneak through the dark because you can change the time of day at that point, and you like sneak and you find her and you find out she's stealing, but then she's like, I gotta feed my family. And so great. I just love every aspect of it. It's just such a joyous game for me. But that was a big point of contention back in the day. People were like, man, this game's made for kids and it's dumb. But it ain't dumb. And I think the audio design in that game's good too. Nothing is quite as exciting as like when the A button pops up real quick when you can like do like a quick dodge or whatever.
Yep.
And it's like shing, and that noise is just so great. Like it gets me going every time I hear it. But yep, that's my number 2. What you got for me, Mike? Number 2.
So this is the newest game on my list, and it wasn't in my original list. So, number 2 for me is Hades.
Ooh,
wow!
This was my game of the year.
Okay.
And I didn't realize I'd love it as much as I do. And I've talked about it because we do a podcast. I talk about it all the time.
All the time.
And
very worth being talked about all the time.
Yes,
it must be noted.
That game is my perfect game. Like the way it is built. From the top to the bottom, to the voice acting, the story, the music, the gameplay. I love it so much. They do a beautiful job at making gameplay that's repetitive, not repetitive.
Yeah. It feels like, I think, not to hijack your thing here, but as the classic roguelike problem of like feeling like nothing's happening. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Binding of Isaac, but you feel like
I couldn't get into Binding of Isaac.
Sometimes you feel like there's nothing, like I'm not accomplishing anything. Yeah. And even in Dead Cells that has progression, you're like, there's a few runs there where you're like nothing happens. But in Hades, you got people to talk to. There's
every run. There's
always
something.
Feels like something is happening.
You might talk to Hypnos and he's like, "Oh wow, you made it further than usual. That's kind of crazy, man."
Yeah.
Or you'll talk to your dad. You'll talk to Achilles. You'll talk to Meg. Like, and they'll always have something cool to say.
Something new, which is the coolest part. Is it feels like there's always something new. Like, how is the dialogue not repeated at this point?
At all. And then you are constantly unlocking new mechanics. Even when I had beat the game the first time, I was like, okay, I assume we've kind of seen the depth of this game.
Then they introduced the heat.
And then they introduced heat. And there's like 12 different ways that you can amp up the game or change the difficulty.
New boss fights even.
Yeah. And then, you have the darkness, you have the gems. I never realized I'd be fishing, and I unlocked fishing. Like there's countless things you're unlocking throughout the game that just change it.
Yeah.
And then I know you haven't beat the story completely.
Nope, I've got 4 wins or 5 wins under my belt.
Did you play it, Bob?
Oh yeah, I put a lot of time into it. I haven't beaten it yet.
Okay.
I haven't even cleared it once. But I really loved my time.
Well, here's some inspiration for you. That I've beaten it 10 times, and the way it plays out is so just rewarding. I feel like
for that 10th completion.
Yeah, for the 10th completion. It just, I don't know. And a game's never made me feel like so rewarded. Not like, you know.
I think the pacing, and I think the best term for it is like the power curve.
Yeah.
Of somehow throughout all of it, you still feel like how am I getting more power? Like,
Yeah.
how does this feel like the difficulty is increasing, yet I'm also getting more powerful to eventually meet that new difficulty? Like, it somehow manages to accomplish that.
And one thing I appreciate about the game the most is that at the beginning, it feels like you're fighting between gods and stuff like that. But by the end, it feels so human and feels so realistic that you're just honestly in an argument with your father.
Yeah.
And you're trying to, you know, get your mother and father to be on the same page or something like that. It just feels so real at near the end. And I think that evolution is what makes this game so good.
Yeah.
Is that it evolves in every aspect.
Makes me wonder, you know, when's Microsoft
the
gonna buy
music evolves
Supergiant?
as you go through it. You know, unlocking Eurydice and what's the other guy's name? The music guy.
The music guy?
The one that's
Orpheus?
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 No, that's the Matrix. I don't know. I forget his name. But it's just so much evolves throughout
I'm looking at
the gameplay. It's just it's so good. I love that game so much, and it might be recency bias. I don't think it is, but I just enjoyed that game so much, and I'm a fan of roguelites. Darkest Dungeon was a game I loved a lot.
it is Orpheus.
It is Orpheus. Okay. And like I agree with you talking about like Binding of Isaac. I can't get into that one because I
do
just
love
don't
that
feel
game.
like there's.
I do love that game, but I will.
I think it's very good at what it is.
Yeah.
I just don't enjoy it for those reasons. And
it's
I
also
think Hades completely fixes that.
It's hard to get over the grossness of Binding of Isaac. Like
yeah,
the whole
there's
aesthetic.
that too. I don't
The whole
care
aesthetic
for that,
is like being gross and
Yeah.
dirty, whereas Hades is, you know, every character in that game is super sexy. Like every single character. when you
Hades
see-
is the sexiest hell possible.
Oh,
like
every single character, you're like, dang, nice. Like every time. I love all the
It's
character
just so
designs.
good, man. I want to go play Hades right now. Like,
It is fun. I did enjoy my time with it. I didn't quite put it as high. I think it landed at number 8 or number 7 in my top 10 of the year. But I have to acknowledge, like, one, what that means for indie games. 2, what that means for the roguelike genre. I think a lot of people who hate roguelites really loved Hades.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people who, you know, because there's still, unfortunately, a ton of people in the gaming sphere that just don't give the time of day to indies. You know, like,
it's not something that's taken seriously yet.
because, you know, how do you, you know, Bob Buel wouldn't have had his wonderful time with The Witness if not, you know, because he plays indie games, obviously.
Yeah.
And so you can have a game, there's just beautiful games to have, and to see a game like Hades be recognized on the, you know, at the
scale
Game
that it
Awards, the
has,
highest echelon possible, is great. So, and you can't really deny what they accomplished with that game. Even though it didn't resonate as much with me, I can appreciate, you know, the adaptive dialogue, the gameplay.
And falling in love with that game early on, when I first saw it, the gameplay back when it was doing their open beta. I don't know what it was, but I watched the gameplay play beforehand, and I fell in love with it then, and I was like, I can't wait for this game to come out on Switch. I'll play it then. And watching that story of Supergiant's, you know, newest game.
Oh yeah,
go from being what it was to Game of the Year contender was just amazing.
Yeah,
so
it was a wonderful story arc to witness.
I
to
love
see
that
them
game
there.
so much. So that's my number 2. What's
Great
yours, Bob?
choice. Great choice. Number 2, and again, I'm going to be an old man for a minute here. Super Mario Brothers 3.
3? Okay, I was finna say.
Okay.
I was hoping you said
3.
3. I was hoping you said 3.
Listen, no shade against 1 or 2.
Of
I
course.
love 1 a lot. I put a lot of time into Mario 35 this year. 2 is very good in its own accord, but a totally different game. But 3 to me is the best 2D Mario. And I know that's maybe controversial because people love World and there's a bunch of newer ones that do it really well. But in terms of 2D Mario, Mario 3 just like, I think I'm going to steal the quote from Dan Reichert, but I think he said it was like a cartoon. It's the closest thing to a cartoon in a video game. Like a Saturday morning cartoon as portrayed in a video game. That's basically what you're playing.
That is the best way to put it.
It's like everything is colorful. Everything even has a little bit more flair than it needs to. Like the game opens with this giant red curtain, like you're in a theater show, and like the blocks that you jump on that in any other game would just be free floating there for no good reason, have little like screw holes in them. So it looks like they've been like screwed to the back of the wall, which like, in the era of PS4, PS5, it's becoming more commonly done because they have the time, they have the people, they have the staff, they have the assets to do it. But for a Nintendo game, NES game, to have this level of detail in it was like unheard of. To look at original Mario Brothers and Mario 3 and saying both of these were on the same console.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
You would go, no, you're lying. There's clearly something in between. Yeah. It's just as perfect as that 2D Mario formula is, Mario 3 hit it. Like that's the perfect 2D platformer. It's tight. It's got a ton of surface level stuff. You can get to the end just by playing it normally, but it has so much secret content. If you want to find the secret whistles, if you want to find secret toad houses, all this kind of stuff, like you can beat it in probably, I don't know, 40 minutes if you really wanted to, if you were really great at it. It's great on every level. It's my perfect 2D Mario platformer, and it just same thing with what keeps coming up here. It just brings me so much joy. There's nothing in that game that's like I'm gonna snap a controller in frustration. It's all about just going like, look at this one gimmick that like they use in this one level that's just super fun and has a Karibo shoe. Like there's no reason that needs to be in there where you're in a little shoe and you're hopping around. Like it shows up maybe in 2 levels in the whole game.
I forgot about that shoe.
But they put it in there just because, or the frog suit, which is useless in normal levels, but when you're underwater, you're just like the greatest swimmer of all time. It does so many weird things. It has one world where everything is oversized, where you're like a tiny Mario in an oversized world. So you play through like classic Mario 1-1, but every block is like a third of the screen. Like, there's no reason they should have done that, especially on an NES, but they did, and it just shows that so much love was put into that. It's phenomenal. It's my favorite Mario, and it's my favorite 2D Mario.
That is what I was gonna say. I think that is a testament to just, especially when you turn the clock back that far to those older games, it feels like there's just so much like more like specific love put into those
you can
games.
tell on that one.
You can see where like, wow, like someone just sat back and they just made this thing that didn't really need to be here, but here it is because the person had passion about what they were creating, and that is one of those games I think that has that shines with that specific thing. And honestly, I think that's just Nintendo as a whole. A lot of the reasons
for what you were describing, Super Mario 3. That's the same thing for like me and Odyssey.
Yeah,
that's like my perfect
100%.
3D platformer Mario. For the same reasons. It's just like everything is, put there for a reason. It's all kind of made in love, you feel like, and it's just joyous in every way. There's no moments where you want to snap a controller. Yeah, and if it is, it's because I'm bad at the game. It's never because of bad game design, in my opinion.
It's the Miyamoto classic.
So I get that.
The classic Miyamoto interview where he said like, in Mario, specifically talking about Mario 64, was like, we just put blocks in a room that was just bland, and we had people running around jumping, and that's how we made the triple jump, and we made it fun and great before we put all of the rest of the stuff in it. And that's that same type of thing where you could tell there's just so much attention to detail and specific things that are just great. There's not a lot in those games that's annoying. You're never like, man, and I think also that works in Hades too, where it's like in Hades, every single input I did, I always felt like was like everything that happened on screen was exactly what I wanted to happen.
Yeah, how I intended it.
And I feel like it's the same thing in a lot of the Mario games, not just Mario 3. It did exactly what I wanted, and if I screw up, it's because I suck. It wasn't because the game did anything, or I love them. You gotta love those Mario games, and Super Mario 3 is a good pick. I appreciate that pick.
It's phenomenal. It's my favorite. I know the argument, at least for me growing up, was always World versus 3. I still lean 3. I'm not I'm not attacking World by any means. It's very, very good,
of course,
but for me, 3 always holds that spot.
3 is nice. On to our number 1 picks. So my number 1 pick, I've talked about it a lot, so anyone who listens to the show probably already knows, but this could be a hot take because of how recent, hasn't even been a year since this game came out.
Yep.
Final Fantasy VII Remake is my favorite game of all time. Now, let me rationalize this for you here, Bob.
You're going to need to.
I understand the recency bias. I come from... that doesn't make any sense. I play games, specific games, and an area of games that I don't play is JRPGs.
Mm-hmm.
I do not play JRPGs. I can get into some of Pokemon. I think that's different. You know, people tell me I'm wrong, but I think that's different.
No, I think it's different.
But I can't get into Dragon Quest. I can't get into regular Final Fantasy.
No Persona.
I can't get into Persona. I tried Ni no Kuni. Like every attempt I can to get into these games, I've made an attempt because like the people who love JRPGs, like especially like you, they love them so much and they express so much love and so much excitement around them that I have. Anyone who knows me personally knows that FOMO is one of my biggest flaws, and so I just want to be involved. I want to be in with them too. So I've tried them all, and I can't. And obviously, Final Fantasy VII Remake isn't a traditional JRPG, but going into it, I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. Now, one of the things I talk about when I talk about this game is how much I cried like a baby through the entirety of it, and not just during sad moments, Bob.
No, it's
like
true. Any moment.
Like I don't want to spoil big aspects of the game, but like the Hell House fight, right? Even that fight, even though I never played the original, I have no nostalgia for finding.
This is what I was about to ask. Yeah, did you play the original 7? Because I think that changes a lot of factors here.
I didn't play the original 7, yet even the Hell House fight brought me to tears, despite not having the nostalgia for finding a random house on a highway in the original. Right? I don't have those connections, and I understand a lot of people have a problem with the ending of that game. A lot of people who played the original have a massive problem with the ending of that game. And a lot of people who didn't have a problem with it because, frankly, I can't defend it completely. It's confusing, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, especially for people who's never played any of those games. Like, that ending is kind of like, what the hell's going on? Mm-hmm. Yet for me, I was just like, this is awesome. Like, this is just so great in every aspect. You know, when you first meet Aerith, when Collapsed Expressway, when that song comes on, when you're in chapter 8, I will admit the hand puzzle in the tunnel, that part of the game sucks. It's so dumb.
It's not the best.
I hate that part. But leading up, when that song starts playing, I was like, why is this song bringing me to tears? And I had a big conversation about this with Trey, with friend of the show, Trey Blackburn. And he was saying, you know, have you thought about what was going on in your life around playing this game? And is that what shaped your view of this? And I think there's a certain aspect that did. That's when, you know, COVID was first happening. Everything was extremely stressful. We were wondering about the future of our lives, let alone the game industry as a whole. Obviously, the game industry had no problem. I mean, obviously there's development problems, but is really experienced a lot of growth.
Act on it and change. And
it didn't crash like I expected it to. But there was a lot of stressful stuff. Like, am I going to lose my job? Is everything going to be okay? Like, are we going to die? You know, it was really crazy in the beginning. And yet this game was like, it like grounded me, I guess. And just every aspect of that game just brings
I think
me to
you
tears.
specifically fell so in love with the characters.
I do. Like, that's the thing I talk about. It sucks that we're still so far away from Final Fantasy Remake Part 2 for me. It hasn't even been a year since the first one, and I'm so stoked for the second one because I miss those characters.
Yeah.
I feel such an attachment to those characters. I didn't expect, in the beginning, I was like, man, Cloud is just an edgy, no emotion, edgelord guy, and I don't like him. But by the end, I was like, oh, man, Cloud, so great. And every character, you know, Barrett's monologue in the elevator about can't you hear the planet? You know, even that just gets me going every time. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to cry. And I just don't know what it is, but every aspect of that game brings me to tears or close to tears. And I understand there's a lot of stuff in there that didn't do it for a lot of people. You know, there's some tedium, especially when it comes to the side questing and things like that. Yeah. But every single aspect for me just hit the mark every single time. Every side quest, every character interaction. There was some stuff, you know, like the door texture that never loaded. That was always weird.
But I mean, looking back on it, we've played Cyberpunk and we've conquered a lot more than
After
that.
Cyberpunk, I got so much forgiveness for small bugs, man. But specifically in Final Fantasy, just everything. Just every single thing I did, or character interaction, or cutscene, I was like, why am I about to cry right now? I do not, the cross-dressing scene, the dance scene, everything was just so perfect for me. It was so perfect for me. I loved it so much, and I just want other people to experience it as well.
Yeah, it was at least 4 or 5 on my top of the year list for sure. And this is coming from someone who is a big fan of JRPGs. Like I was just looking over my top whatever 30 or 40 that I have here, and Pokemon Silver, Phantasy Star 4 is on here, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 6. Like I have a several Chrono Trigger. I have several other ones that are on here. And a lot of the stuff that you said is like, this is, I don't want to open a floodgate, but a lot of the stuff that you're really loving about this is kind of a thing in modern JRPGs. You might want to check a couple of them out.
I've been trying.
I keep trying, Bob. I keep trying. I make an attempt every time. I don't like Dragon Quest 11. I played 2 hours. I didn't like it. And I've just tried. I keep trying. Ni no Kuni was the one I got the furthest in. Yeah. I got 20 hours into Ni no Kuni 2. And then it just got a little too tedious for me. I've tried a little bit of whatchamacallit.
Couldn't get you into Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts, I don't know. I just can't. I'm gonna keep trying. I might find the one.
The one I'll recommend, and it's older, so you got to deal with some pixelated graphics, but I think they're gorgeous. Final Fantasy VI, like it shows up in a lot of people's best Final Fantasy lists. It's my second favorite Final Fantasy of all time. I like 9 a little better, but it's not for everyone. 6 is for everyone, and it sets the tone so early. It's a world that's shockingly similar to 7. Like there's a reason that's 6 and that's 7. Like you could tell the inspirations they took. I would say it's worth checking out.
6 is one that I have on my list. A JRPG I do want to go back and play is Chrono Trigger that you said earlier. That's one that I've missed, but I listened to the MinMax deep dive on Chrono Trigger that they did, and I loved it. And I hear so much good stuff about that game, and I keep not attempting, but keep almost making an attempt to be like, hey, am I gonna do it this time? Am I gonna boot it up?
I mean, now would be the best time.
And I haven't. Yeah, we are in an area of like nothing's coming out, but it's one that I want to try, but I haven't quite got there. So yeah, all right, that's my number 1.
Phenomenal game. I liked it too.
Okay. Fantastic.
You were frozen there for a second, but you're back. We're good to go. We're good to go now. Okay. But that's my number 1.
My number 1. This one's like purely memories and nostalgia. Is Minecraft.
I love this pick so much.
Ooh, I like it.
I think it's a very simple game at the end of the day.
It is,
especially, and it's grown,
but it can be complex in the past 10 years if you get into mods and stuff.
Yeah, it's as big as you want that game to be.
Of course.
Yeah.
It, and just the memories I have with this. The same reason you like Wind Waker, because you share that with your brother. It's the one game me and my brother have in common. Yeah. There's not a lot.
Yeah.
Me and my brother both like games, but
there's a reason
don't overlap at all.
There's a reason it's the best-selling game of all time.
Yeah, and it was just something we could both play and share. And me being 5 years older than him didn't have an impact on whether we could both understand what we were doing.
Yes.
We were just both having a really fun time, and then get to college, get to high school. Every step, I was able to share that game with somebody. I was playing it with my classmates in high school. I was playing it with my roommates in college. I've played it with Tim. And then every year, it seems to get its resurgence.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the summer, we always try and boot it up.
Yeah, sometime in the summer, we'll start a server, or someone will be like, hey, I'm kind of craving Minecraft. And then there's 2 weeks where we're just in.
Yeah, and completely. And it's just every time I enjoy it so much.
Of course.
If I had, if I had infinite time, it'd be in my rotation constantly.
All the time, yeah.
Because it's just, even though you always start the game the same, I still enjoy it.
Yeah, and it feels different
every time you build your first house. You're like, all right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I got new ideas this time.
Build a farm. Build this.
Yeah, and then there's just so many good memories every time. And then every now and then you boot up Minecraft and you're like, let me go look at my old worlds. Yeah. Let me go look at this world I have from like 2014. And you see all these old things you did. Memories you have with your friends. It's just crazy. And the thing is, there's not many games where you can do that. Like look on what you did and create it. You know. You can look at your save file for Pokemon, but it's not, it's not the same feeling to me. So,
there's a reason that, like, if you go to a toy store today, or if you go to a toy store in 1931, like Legos are on the shelf.
Yes,
this is the digital version of that. This is as customizable as it's a 1-player game, it's a 2-player game, it's an 80-person game. it's absolutely everything. It's the it's the closest interpretation to what Legos can do, but in digital form and possibly more. And it perfectly sums up. It's the reason it's the best selling game of all time. It's amazing.
100%. And somehow my dad uses the fact that it's just Legos in a video game as a criticism. I don't understand how.
I think that's an amazing selling point for it.
For me, it's just you can, especially with creative mode and things like that. You could do anything you want.
I literally played Pokemon in Minecraft.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you could.
Wow.
Yeah, people who build the computers and stuff.
Well, even that, like they did Pixelmon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a big thing.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Pixelmon.
I think that was like 2014.
I did a lot of pixel art back in the day when I had Minecraft Pocket Edition.
Yep.
I've played Minecraft on every possible platform known to man. I kind of want to play right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's just such a good time sink, and I just love it so much, man.
And a lot of people. I feel like Minecraft is another game that people who aren't super into games can or have played and been like, this is fun.
Yeah.
There's still the hurdle of dual analog to get over. But I feel like Minecraft is just a game. Even Pebble, which is my little sister, she is not a gamer, but she's played the hell out of Minecraft. Yeah. And so many people I know are that way.
And it gives me something to connect with, I guess the generation after me.
Yeah.
That seeing 10-year-old or your brother would play Minecraft or my brother. And that's my connection.
We just talked about it on the last podcast we did. Minecraft is the most watched thing this year.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Every year it still gets bigger and bigger.
What was it? 100 billion?
It was 200 and the next was 77.
Yeah.
So it's 200 million hours or 200
It was 100 billion hours total watched on YouTube gaming, and then Minecraft had made up the biggest portion of that. It was
twice as much as the next game.
Yeah, by a mile.
And it's just crazy how huge that game still is. Because for us, it almost feels like that game is come and gone. Yeah. And it's something we revisit. But it's still the biggest game.
You look at Dream recently. He's big. I can think back to all the old Minecraft YouTubers I used to watch as a child. And then somehow kids coming up now are still they got their own Minecraft YouTubers.
They got people take up the mantle. And it's just crazy how that game has stayed relevant. Yeah, relevant. Yeah.
And as much as we thought the Microsoft purchase was going to kill that game, I think it's done a ton to further that game in a better way, which is nice to see.
Made it more available and accessible to people.
Because I remember when Microsoft bought them and everyone was like, it's over. It's done. Minecraft is This is it. It's the end times. And then turns out actually quite not. It's actually really good. Now it's crossplay.
And I think it's just a game that so many people have good memories with. I think it's
okay. We're back. We had a problem with the video software. We ran out of space, but luckily we record in FLV, so the file's not gone like that week a few months ago. And so we're back in it, and we're gonna start back with Bob Buel's #1 game of all time.
Finish it off, Bob.
The computer said the content here was too good, so it had to just give it a quick reboot. We're good. All right, #1 game of all time for me. And this is another case, just like how you were talking about Pokemon before.
Yes.
If I could give this to a franchise, I would easily give it to the franchise of the game of this is. But it's Metal Gear Solid 1.
1. Okay.
1 specifically. Now, again, if I'm looking at my top, 40 or so that I ended up ranking here, I have 5 just outside of the top 5. I have 2 and 3 a little bit lower on the list. I adore this franchise, but 1 is the game, and it sounds super dramatic, but Metal Gear Solid 1 changed what I thought a video game could do. I didn't think a game could be as cinematic as it was. I didn't think a game could make you think outside of the box of what a video game, from a playability standpoint, could do until Metal Gear Solid 1. I didn't think a game could be as huge and bombastic with its story until Metal Gear Solid 1. All these things, once I played it, I was like, oh, this is like a medium. This isn't just I have, $50 and a couple hours to spare and I'm going to play whatever. This could be a thing that is comparable to movies or books, or this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And it all started with this game. Is it cheesy and over the top?
100%.
Yes. Does it feature, does the franchise feature a villain who spits bees at you from a gun made of bees? Yes.
You can't deny the goofiness of God. Now why is his name gone? Jesus.
Hideo Kojima.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Dang.
Yeah.
How do I forget the
Fake
name
gamer,
of
dude.
Kojima? Yeah, I'm a fake gamer.
Shut him down. But that's kind of its appeal to me. Like I was literally having this conversation before the show started. Like, why didn't Splinter Cell hit with me as much as Metal Gear did?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Splinter Cell is a military game, and Metal Gear is a action movie / anime brought to life.
It really is.
And that first game just exemplifies everything about it that I love. It's grounded just enough at first to get you hooked, and then once you're already in, that's when it sneaks up with like, oh, also there's a psychic, and also there's a giant shaman with a minigun, and also, but like by that point you're like, well, I gotta save the world. Like I already know my mission, so all this other stuff is just like icing on the cake. It doesn't matter. Like I'm gonna solve it. It's just gonna be time and place. And the fact that it made you think outside the box to the point where, like, you can't solve a mission until you read the back of your game box to get a radio code to call someone. That's the only way you can get that code.
Was that the one that had Psycho Mantis in it?
That is Psycho Mantis, possibly the greatest boss of all time. Like he makes you think your PlayStation turned off. He makes you think that you changed inputs on your television by letting it say video 1 in the corner on a black screen. Like you can't hit him unless you change the controller ports so he gets an exit out of your mind.
So
he
goofy.
reads your memory card and tells you what you've been playing. Like if you fall into a lot of traps, he'll call you clumsy to make fun of you in the game. Like it's mind-blowing what they were able to do with this. And then there are twists at the tail end of the game that like rival any movie that you could never see coming in a million years. And then you're like, oh my God, this is huge. These are colossal twists. That game is like so much of everything that I love. It you know, when I say it like changed how I thought video games could operate, it really did, because it just did things so differently on such a different level.
I think it's crazy because I think what you're talking about is them leaning into the fact that like we don't have to compete against movies. We can do the same thing, but also lean into the fact that we're a video game and push into that.
Yeah.
I think that's why a lot of people
100%.
also love like the Yakuza franchise.
Goofy. So
because that game, I think it kind of has the same things where it's like crazy weird, but it starts off normal enough to pull you in, and then it shows you, we're a video game. We can do dumb stuff. We can have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I think that when games lean into that, it just makes them better games.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Kojima does that. And
just being hella anime.
Yeah. And you just gotta love when games do that kind of stuff. I love it when it.
Yeah, I know. It's
not afraid to be a video game.
Yeah.
And I think
that worded perfectly. It's not afraid to, you know, this is a medium where we have a controller in our hands, so we have some sort of feedback back, and it uses that. It's not just a passive experience where you have to watch it, and it uses that ability to mess with the player, not the character, but the player. Like, and it does that in every game. I can think of an example. I could rattle off for 40 minutes about every game in the series and why I love all of them, but like there are moments in 2 that do the exact same thing where a character literally looks the player, not the character, but the player in the eye and says, turn off your PlayStation 2. You've been playing this game for too long. Like as a way to mess with your psyche. Like it's so good. Metal Gear Solid 1, like, all right, polygonal graphics haven't aged that well. The controls are janky as all heck, but like at the end of the day, who cares at that point? It's like having the greatest filet mignon ever, but the plate was a little gaudy. It's like, I don't care. Like, I'm having the greatest steak ever. I don't care if I have to use a plastic fork to eat it. Like, it's Metal Gear Solid 1 or the franchise by a mile.
You gotta love it. You gotta love just Kojima as a whole, and hopefully, I mean, the rumors still, but hopefully with the rumors that Sony might be buying Metal Gear from Konami, you might see a remaster one day. You might see Kojima back at the reins.
That would be phenomenal.
I would love to see a Metal Gear one, like the old NES MXX game. I would love to see if they remade that one, because that was the big rumor after 5, because the story of it, like it was set in the 60s, and like I guess 70s in that one, maybe
Yep.
80s, whatever. But canonically, the next game in that timeline would be Metal Gear 1. And so everyone was like, "Oh, they're gonna remake it. They're gonna do something with that." And then obviously Konami said, "No."
There's so many franchises like that I feel like, speaking of us, we're 22, that we haven't gotten to see the full depth of, because it's old and it's hard for us to go back to something like that. And I appreciate when they remake old games. Because I know people love them, but it also just reintroduces the games to a new audience.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see something like that, especially. I know we have the original somewhere over there. I think Tim's looking for it. You find it?
There it is. Metal
Oh,
Gear.
there it is. Yeah.
Yep.
MSX. Yep. I actually, at a Comic-Con, I bought a flask that is an NES cartridge that's hollowed out with a little top that screws off that says Metal Beer Solid. That is grade A stuff.
I mean, solid picks. Solid picks all around.
I love it. But yeah, great number one picks all around.
Before we wrap up this special bonus episode of Sync Up Podcast, and thank Bob Buel for being here, I would like to ask everyone for some honorable mentions. You did say you had a massive list, Bob Buel. If you could give me give me 2 to 3 honorable mentions, maybe a little bit shorter in getting into them, because I know we've been going a little long here. But what are some honorable mentions you have that didn't quite make the top 5, but you think deserve to be given a little bit of a spotlight?
Well, I'm going to ignore the Metal Gear ones because I went off on those. I'm going to ignore the Final Fantasy ones because I went off on those a little bit. So the other ones in the top 10 that I didn't really talk about were Cuphead.
Ooh, I love Cuphead so much.
Which, I don't know if you could see it. I'm not sure which way I'm facing here. Right about, I'm trying to, there we go, right there-ish. It's way back there. You can't see it. It's actually, I won it during an Extra Life charity auction. It's a hand-painted animation cell from Cuphead.
That's
like
dope.
it's of the Cuphead and Mugman, like doing the little pose during the intro screen.
Yeah.
It's one of the things they actually hand-painted for the game and scanned it in.
Super cool.
I love that thing so much.
Good choice. I love that game.
It's the perfect thing because I'm clearly biased to those old school platformer running guns,
of course,
and it's that, but with, oh my god, what a gorgeous art style!
Perfect,
so good.
The amount of like blood, sweat, and tears put into that, like hand drawing everything, only because they wanted to,
and it's
only because they said it would look good, and it did.
It does, and it reflects well in it. Like you can see it when you play the game. You can see that effort in there, which is it's just so nice. Yeah, Cuphead I adore, and then the only one other than that is Red Dead Redemption 2. I know, again, a lot of people feel strongly about it either way, because some people are like, it's too slow, why do you have to walk around camp, blah blah blah, brush your horse.
Yeah, but to me, that's what made me feel at home in that world.
I agree.
The little things of like, yeah, you have to shave down every bullet, but it's like, but you're sitting around a campfire, you're hearing some old guy talk stories behind you, you're hearing somebody wash up the wagon over here. Like,
that's nice.
It felt like you were there, and the game is so long that by the time you're done, it's like you really have to unplug yourself out of that Red Dead matrix, because you're so engrossed. You know everything about it, you know your horse, you know your guns, you know everything about it. So it really grabbed me.
I love that game. I think it's in my top. I think it's in my top 10. If it's not in my top 10, it's definitely in my top 20. Yeah, I have it at the 13th spot right here in my top games of all time. Yeah, that game story
just made 10. It was so good.
That game story did a lot for me and making me cry. Now I will have to admit here on air that I did not play the epilogue.
Criminal.
And a lot of people hate me for that. But I got 2.
How do I leave this podcast? Is there a button I can just
leave Discord?
Yeah. I didn't play the first one, so I have no like
connection.
Skip a minute if you don't want any spoilers for Red Dead Redemption 2. I didn't really care to play as John Marston because I didn't play the first one, and not being able to play as Arthur Morgan affected me more than I expected it to, in like an emotional way. Like I got to that and I just was like, I don't want to play this game if I'm not Arthur Morgan. Like I just
his
couldn't
death
do it.
in that is powerful,
It
dude.
is
Like,
insanely powerful, and nothing is better than I gave you all I had. It's just so good when he's laying there, and I just can't. I'm so glad he won that game award that year. He very much deserved it. And Jesus, like, it doesn't get any better than that. In that scene and that entire game, I think the nun scene is my favorite game.
I was about to say that with him and the nun at the train station.
Yes.
That's my favorite one.
That's my favorite scene by far. Just the human emotion and sadness in that scene is just like, dang, like this is just heavy. It
cuts so deep.
It's very moving. It's very moving. But on to a couple of my honorable mentions here that I have. So first and foremost, I would like to list Outer Wilds as an honorable mention.
Ooh.
And I guess I've started to notice that a lot of games in my top are decently recent in the last 3 or 4 years, which I don't know what that says about me. But if you look at my top 50, I got some oldies in here. Gun for the GameCube, come on. But anyway, Outer Wilds, that game. I think that game's soundtrack is my favorite soundtrack of all time. It brings me to tears just hearing it. We have the vinyl over there sitting in one of our shelves is the vinyl for that game. And it's in like this paper packaging with this handwritten notes all over it. And it's super cool.
That's
but just
awesome.
Every single song I hear in that game, I'm just like, why am I about to cry right now? Also, I have to admit, I'm extremely biased towards space and all things space.
Big space guy.
I could sit here and talk to you for 5 or 6 hours about physics and black holes and all the types of stuff there. Like if you want, like I could break it all down. I'm very biased towards space and whatnot, so I have to admit that. But I think Outer Wilds is a crazy game. And when you watch the no clip documentary on Outer Wilds, that really opened my eyes and made me appreciate this game more. When you learn, like for example, in that game you don't jump; the world moves around you. In the code, which I thought was super cool because they just couldn't accomplish it because there's just so much like moving at once that when you would jump, it would just break their game. So instead of jumping, they just make the world just move out from under your feet and you fall back to the thing, which I thought was really cool.
Crazy.
So I really like that. And then one other honorable mention, I'll stay on the indie game train here. What Remains of Edith Finch affected me.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it affected me profoundly. Despite being such a short experience, I was affected by that game longer than the runtime of that game. It really just it hit me so hard and it I think just it was another one of those games that kind of showed me like games can tell incredible stories. Like they can tell stories just up to the echelon of movies and books. And I know there's a lot of people who don't agree with that. I think it's is that Sam Claiborne on IGN, one of the IGN guys that's on the Game Scoop all the time. He thinks video game stories is like the worst part of video games. He doesn't think they really live up to the other things. And I know there's a lot of people out there that have that vision, but there's just so many games I would point them to prove them wrong. And Edith Finch is one of them. And sure, walking simulator. It is a walking simulator. I never use that term negatively. I like walking simulators very much. Everyone's Gone to the Rapture, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. But What Remains of Edith Finch was just, and the ending and just every little vignette and story. Jordan, he's our guy doing the 1s and 2s. He also played Edith Finch after my recommendation late at night and expected to turn it off a little while later and ended up playing the whole thing, like stayed up super late and played that whole thing. And then we talked about it and I have it there and I always almost click on it to play it again because it's so short and it's just such a wonderful experience for me. But those are my.
I think it's kind of similar to how I was saying about Miss Pac-Man. Like it knows what it wants to be, and I think it's pretty perfect for what it is.
100%.
Like I adore that game.
I do as well. What do you got for a couple honorable mentions, Mike? Before we end this here podcast,
off the top of my head, Persona 5 got me into JRPGs, and I've fallen in love with the genre. I talked about this literally last podcast, I think. I played Fire Emblem because of it, Dragon Quest,
and you've gone deep.
And I've gone pretty deep. And
Persona.
I loved Persona 5. It has probably my favorite soundtrack. If I'm at work, I'll listen to it.
I don't like
doing dishes.
Persona 5, but nothing gets me going like
about to be on Spotify in like 6 hours. Yeah, I'm so excited for that. I really love the characters and the gameplay. I love the Persona aspect of it. It's just a really good game, and I appreciate what it did to get me into the genre. I love Cuphead, like you said earlier.
Cuphead is good.
I don't. It's weird. I don't consider myself someone who likes hard games.
That game's hard.
But
Oh yeah, it is.
It is extremely hard. But I beat it,
and
it
can be
all the way
harder
through.
if you want to go for like the no hits and stuff.
Yeah.
You can make it as hard as you want.
I didn't make it that hard,
but even the lowest levels, pretty damn hard.
but it gave me a feeling of like, I might not be the type of guy to beat Dark Souls all the way through, but it still gave me a feeling of like I'm good. It made me feel good for beating that game. I had overcome all
true
these
gamer.
hurdles. Yeah, it was if I felt awakened. So I have so much love for that game too. And then I said it earlier, but like Mortal Kombat, and maybe just fighting games in general.
We have so much time into
it
Smash
gives me.
Bros.
I can connect with my mom on Mortal Kombat. We play Smash all the time.
all the time.
It's so fun to be able to just go head to head with somebody and just beat their ass,
Yeah.
And Smash with spiking somebody off the stage is one of the greatest feelings in the world.
It's fun to get better.
Yeah.
Before you used to just trounce me all the time,
Yep.
and I was really bad, and now how the turntables, right?
It's like 60-40.
Yeah. But it was fun as someone to just climb up the ranks of like, man, these people are really whooping me constantly. Yet like overcoming that hurdle and going to tournaments with you guys.
We started going to tournaments, and we started out like 0-2,
every time.
and then we'd go 1-2, and then we went 2-2, and then 3-2, and that's about where we stopped. But it was just so fun watching yourself improve against these other people, and then having each other, because we played against each other enough to where we almost built each other up in our gameplay, and having that experience with somebody is so cool to like help build each other up and make each other better at something. We have that with like playing chess.
Chess
over the past couple months. We've both gotten, I think, a lot better.
I do chess puzzles every day,
and so I appreciate fighting games for that, for allowing you to either release aggression on somebody in a less violent way, or
just have some fun. You're having some sort of get together or whatever, and you're kicking back with your friends, and everyone's like, hey, we got 3-4 controllers, you want to throw it up? And then you're sitting there and everyone's playing Smash and having a good time. Now I personally can't play more than 2 players. I just don't have fun, but I have fun watching other people have fun with 4-5 players.
So I gotta shout out the fighting game scene somewhere in there.
Smash Bros is the only fighting game I can play because I miss input enough in that game. When I'm playing Mortal Kombat or something, it never, like what I said with Hades, it does everything I want it to do, and Mortal Kombat, not at all. I'm always doing the wrong thing.
Yeah,
you can lose momentum so fast in those games.
I just can't.
One special that whiffs and you're just stuck in the animation for like 3 seconds. It's all downhill.
And then you just get whomped, and then you try to play online, and someone just got you in like some sort of infinite combo that turns out is not infinite. It's just because you suck.
Yep.
Those games are rough. But Smash Bros, something beautiful about that game.
Yeah.
I think if you pull all our time from all the Wii U's and all of our different Switches from Smash 4 and Smash Ultimate, we have 2,000 hours.
And just looking at what Sakurai did in Ultimate,
everybody's here, man.
If you just stop and look at that roster of characters, it's just insane.
It's a wonderful thing. I was looking at
big it is
the other day. I was like sitting back on the couch, and it goes like 8 rows down, and I was just sitting there like, I think Smash Bros has ruined other fighting games for me, because I can try other fighting games like Dragon Ball Fighters and stuff, and I enjoy that one mainly because a lot of the shit is automatic in that game. Like you can hold square and you'll do the combo. Like you can just tap a button and you'll do the combo you want to do, which is nice. But even that roster compared to Smash, it just doesn't even
close.
Yeah. So the next Mortal Kombat that comes out, like I can play Mortal Kombat for a little bit and I like the stories, but the roster is just gonna feel so. It's just not going to feel as good because the Smash roster is just so large and filled with so much variety. It's just crazy how much is in that game. I love it.
I thought about this literally like a couple of weeks ago. I was like, if you had told me, like little kid me buying Smash Brothers for 64, like, just give it a couple of years and Sonic, Ryu, Ken, Minecraft Steve, truly just a shocking Pac-Man, Snake, Sephiroth, Cloud. Like it is truly unbelievable how many characters they got in there from their own IPs and different. It's absolute. And they're only up to Fight Pack 2.
Yeah,
like they're not done. They're not close to done.
We got still 3 more in this pack.
And if they do another pack, which it's
It's crazy.
It might happen.
Because I mean, if you just do Nintendo IPs alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's still crazy to get that done.
Yeah.
But
with all this,
it is all these other hands in the mix.
Mm-hmm. It is the biggest crossover event in history. Like you just really can't come close.
No question.
Can't come close to it, which is nice. But that is it for all of our picks. I think they were all nice. I like
good variety.
I like the spice that Bob Buel brought. He brought some oldies but goodies in there because my list is a lot of new stuff. And Bob Buel Miss Pac-Man, Metal Gear 1. I like those picks, Bob. They're really nice.
I'm sprinkling in that old school spice in there.
You gotta
That's
have
what
it.
I do.
And I think this episode is better for it. Honestly, it was wonderful having you on.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, it was a joy.
Oh, thank you guys.
You're a very wholesome guy. I've watched you on a lot of the other shows, Min-Max and Game Informer. And I don't know if you were on there last year, but I've been listening to those shows for like 3 or 4 years because I got a job as a postman. So I have a ton of time to just sit and listen to podcasts. And so I know I've seen you on there a few times. But you're just a joy to have on those shows, and you were a joy to have on our show. So we very much...
I very much appreciate it, and seriously, thank you guys for inviting me on. This was fantastic. Like I said, I could wax philosophical about games for hours.
So could I,
and actually just have. So yeah,
yeah, of course. But before we head out, where can people find you? I know we got your Twitter linked on the screen, but for the audio listeners,
do that. More than anything, if you want to hear my voice wax philosophical about any other thing, 99 Questions is the name of the podcast. If whatever podcast thing you have, the number 99 Questions, it's me asking the same 99 question interview to all different guests from different ways of life. There's a lot of people in the video game industry. So yeah, if you are familiar with the Min-Max community, we had Ben Hansen on, we had Dan Reichert, formerly of Game Informer and Giant Bomb. We just had Abby Russell on from Giant Bomb, Alex Stadnick, Mary Kish, comedians, Jeffrey James, a bunch of other people, actors. Caldwell Tanner from Not Another D&D podcast was super cool on there. A lot of really cool guests that I'm shocked they say yes to me. I don't know. I still don't understand why, but there's some really cool ones, and I'm lining up some very cool ones right now. So if you want to check out anything I'm doing, that'll be the place to do.
Of course, that's exciting. Get excited for that. And that to be completely honest with you, Bob Buel, as excited as you are to have those guests on, I was as excited to have you on here. It felt like a big deal for me. You are our first like, we've had Chance and people who are
someone who's not
group.
In our immediate friend
but you were
group,
the first person to be it's another one of those milestones for us that make it feel like our podcast is like legit. Sponsoring the Min-Max show and now going from 20 listeners a week to now we have a consistent 150 160. It's crazy. It really is. And we're not making money out here. We still got day jobs, but it's just cool for that many people to love what we do, and to have to go through the email list and now pick which emails we want to talk about and not just pull them all is a fun thing. And you being on here with us is, for me, another one of those milestones of like, hey, we got a guest, they videoed in, they have a podcast, they had Dan Reichert on there, like, oh, and that's what I was saying leading up. I was like, hey, Bob Buel's going to be a special guest, and everyone's like, who's that? Oh, well, he's Bob Buel. He's a wholesome guy. He's talked to Dan Reichert, Ben Hansen, and I was listening to all this stuff, and it was very exciting for me. So thank you for being on here. Again, you can find Bob Buel at the 99 Questions podcast. His Twitter is at Bob Backwards with 3 B's there, BOBBB backwards. And you can find him and follow him over there if you would like. I would love to have you on again some point in the future. We might do that because this was very fun. I've actually had a great time. I've had a great time.
This is phenomenal.
Of course. So maybe look forward to that. But until then, you can find our normal episodes Mondays, 7 a.m. Central Time Zone gang. And all the normal stuff. But thank you so much for watching or listening to this special episode of the Synced Up podcast. I've been Tim. That's been Mike. That's been Bob. You love to see him. And we will see y'all in the next one.
Goodbye.
The unspoken hero back there.
Yeah.
The classic game for the Wii.
It might not work for Bob Buel because he's a little older, but I'm hoping it does.
But maybe you still share this same mental connect we do.
Okay.
When I say the Wii game, the Blob, you're familiar?
Yes.
The Blob, okay. Is there another game that also comes to mind after thinking about the Blob?
Just whatever the immediate one is.
Like, what does the Blob?
Because there's 3 of us in this household that independently all said the same exact thing, and it blew our minds. And we're wondering if you're going to say it.
Well, mine, unshockingly, is an old school answer, but what comes to mind is A Boy and His Blob for NES, but probably because the word blob is in it.
Okay.
Do you have any other answers?
For Da Blob?
Like you just think, not necessarily games that are like Da Blob, but you just associate this game with Da Blob for some reason.
Boom Blocks?
That's close.
That's close.
I do love Boom Blocks, though.
Boom Blocks is good.
I love that. I actually have a copy in my room.
Now I'm trying to think like Wii era.
Maybe he'll say it. Maybe he'll say it.
If it's past guess 3, we'll move on. But
oh man, I feel like there's pressure.
I know. Technically there's a right answer that we're fishing for.
We're fishing for a specific answer. I don't know if it's necessarily the right one.
I don't know. I'm just gonna throw out my Tetsunuko versus Capcom.
All right.
So for us, for some reason, he mentioned it on the show, and it was a thing that he was saying that when I think of Da Blob, for some reason I think about Epic Mickey on the Wii, and I don't know why, but I felt that so like much of my soul that I was like, wait, that doesn't make. So do I. I don't understand why I do. So later on, we went into the kitchen when the episode was over, and we asked our friend Sal, who lives with us, and he hadn't heard the show or anything. He was in his room doing stuff, so he didn't hear any of it. We confirmed this, and we asked him, hey, when you think of the Wii game Da Blob, what other game do you think of? And he sat there for about 30 seconds, and then he said Epic Mickey, and I lost my mind.
It just made no sense.
I just fell out of my chair. I was like, did he just say, what the hell? And he was like, yeah, and we just couldn't explain it. And so ever since then, we've tried to ask every single person, when you think of Da Blob, what do you think of? And every time, we really hope they say Epic Mickey.
Just to confirm our little conspiracy.
I don't know if it's from, because GameStop, they do their stuff in alphabetical order. That like Da Blob would maybe be next to Epic Mickey at GameStop. Or
the only other thing I could think of is like, doesn't the cover of Epic Mickey? I know it's like that back photo of Mickey standing there, but doesn't it have like ink splatter on it?
Yeah,
that was the other thing we associated it with. Is they both have that kind of same
splattery.
And I also thought Da Blob had a pretty basic cover too, but then I looked at that and it was like yellow and blue and red all over.
They both have the paint splash, but it was such a weird connection that we both shared on the show, and then we shared it with our friend who was like, yeah, definitely Epic Mickey, and I was just like, what, did he just say that?
There's a video essay to be done there somewhere.
Why does people associate Da Blob with Epic Mickey? I don't know. Maybe it's our
Jacob Geller, get on it.
Yeah, maybe it's our age group. Maybe if we ask,
it might be the age thing.
Maybe if we ask more like 22, 23, 21 people, they'll be like, oh, definitely Epic Mickey.
Yeah.
But I'm just like wondering, what is it that like made that connection for us? Because we all independently, so such a weird thing.
So that's our weird thing.
Yeah.